Tonight's episode is a quick update on PFAS in Victoria. Well, the toxic soil from the Westgate Tunnel anyway. Hi, my name is Tony Hooper, and this is the Tones Review, where we unspin the spin, brush aside bull dust, and get to the heart of matters that affect our daily lives, while talking about interesting things as they pop up from time to time. And I wish I wasn't speaking about tonight's subject matter, which is the PFAS decision that's been made recently in Victoria. Before I get to that, though, a quick word from today's sponsor. Got stains on the carpet that make absolutely no sense? Stains elsewhere that are absolutely mysterious and no one putting their hand up to confess as to who did it. Don't worry, pick up the phone and call LSIM Group on 0406 554 340. They are absolutely rippers when it comes to cleaning solutions, innovation and cutting-edge solutions, 23 years experience, and they know what they're doing.
Thank you. Yes. Goodbye.
Now, I don't want to bury the lead. I'm going to go straight to the article and go straight through it because, it hasn't got much media attention, but I think it should from our perspective here in Wyndham. All right. Second site approved to take toxic soil from the Westgate Tunnel project. Now, just quickly to see, in case you haven't been aware of it, the EPA of Victoria had to approve these plans for dumping toxic soil potentially in certain locations in the western suburbs of Melbourne. The EPA was taken to task over that by a volunteer group to the Supreme Court. Before it got to the Supreme Court, the EPA withdrew those original approvals because they discovered they weren't done properly. They are now going through the process of redoing it. Now, I, at the time, concluded it was a foregone conclusion that they would be back, and now we're seeing that because, quite honestly, the government wants the toxic soil dumped, and it's going to happen. Gonna happen. All right, so this came out April 13. So it's a few weeks ago, but yeah, look, I think it's worth reading through just to get some coverage here because it's just not getting it. 2 Victorian landfills have now been approved to receive contaminated soil being dug up from the 6.7 billion or plus billion Westgate Tunnel project. Bacchus Marsh landfill site Mattingley Brown Coal is the latest the second to be approved by the Environmental Protection Authority to receive huge amounts of rock and soil from the controversial project. It's controversial for a number of reasons, this being one of them, which is running at least 2 years late and estimated by Treasury to be $3 billion over budget. And it'll be Victorian taxpayers, I reckon, that'll be footing that bill. It is the second landfill to receive approval by the EPA, and Planning Minister Richard Wynne of the State Victorian Labor Party, the party for the battlers. If you believe that, I've got some real estate on the bridge to sell you that's not too far from this dig site. After High Quality in Bulla was given the tick of approval last month, a third landfill, Cleanaway Ravenhall, has received planning approvals, but is yet to have its plan ticked off by the EPA. Tunnelling can only begin on Transurban's new toll road once 3 landfills receive planning and environmental approvals and undergo major expansions of up to 300 hectares and upgrades, which is expected to take 6 months. Digging on the project was supposed to start in September 2019, but has been held up by a major dispute over how to deal with 3 million tonnes of soil contaminated with potential carcinogens known as PFAS and others. There's a lot of others. The leaked report came out last year, I think, or it might have been just the end of the year before. A lot of chemicals are in this soil. PFAS is just one of them, which no Victorian landfill is licensed to take. Keep that in mind. They've changed the rules to facilitate this. Hundreds of workers have lost their jobs on the project over the past 2 years, and its builders are taking Transurban to court in an attempt to rip up their contract and walk off the job. So keep this in mind. This project has got a legal battle going on one front over the toxic soil dumping, and on another front on the actual contractors wanting to walk away from it. And I actually say there's a third front here too, because the CFMEU was originally talking about how dangerous this toxic soil is. I don't know what their position is now though. The project is now facing the prospect of further delays due to a string of separate court cases. Melton City Council launched legal action in the Supreme Court in February against the state government's approval of the soil being dumped in Ravenhall. Moorabool Shire Council, along with the Moorabool Environment Group, is considering launching legal action against the EPA. Said Shire Mayor Tom Sullivan, Bacchus Marsh residents are angry about plans to store this soil so close to schools and market gardens, and it is extremely disappointing that neither the Minister for Planning nor the EPA have properly consulted them about this. In fact, people in Point Cook all the way through to Wyndham Vale, people from Gippsland and all the way across Victoria should be angry about this prospect. I'll go into that a bit later. The Moorabool Environment Group has launched its own legal proceedings in the Supreme Court against Mr. Wynn's approval for Bacchus Marsh. The latest approval comes months after the EPA quashed the approval it granted to all 3 landfills late last year due to a legal error, which the agency admitted to making only after it was sued by Bacchus Marsh Grammar and the Moorabool Environment Group. I'd say that error was come about because the public servants had been pressured to make a decision. Now, look, I'm not there. I don't know. This is speculation purely on my behalf. But looking at that, they made a rushed approval that then the planning minister rushed out and went, yep, we've got it. We're changing the planning scheme. You can't tell me there wasn't political pressure in that environment. You can't. In fact, you'll have a look at the EPA's record over the past few years when it comes to CEOs and articles about pressure. It's not just me saying it. The group's president, Joni Volpede, I hope I've pronounced that right, apologise if I haven't, said it would now consider all options in response to the EPA's approval of Mattingly to receive PFAS contaminated soil in paddocks next to homes, a school, a waterway, and Bacchus Marsh's highly productive food bowl. The area is also home to endangered species. Now, that waterway feeds the Werribee River. The Werribee River, and in fact the whole waterway system around here, goes all the way down past the Werribee Zoo, the open range zoo, straight out to the ocean, making its way past a number of places, well, not straight at the ocean, there's some waterway stuff that happens, but long story short, this PFAS risks contaminating animals, food sources, homes, schools. Fiskville's training facility for the CFA was closed down because of PFAS. Let that sink in for a minute. That the CFA's Fiskville training site, which was heavily contaminated with PFAS, and was linked to cancer clusters was closed down. And yet the state government and the EPA has made it easier for big business to dump toxic soil within hundreds of meters of homes, waterways, or a waterway, school, endangered species, and farms. I cannot make this up. Transurban and the Victorian government are delaying the Westgate Tunnel project further by pursuing disposal options that contradict best practice and fly in the face of current scientific evidence, Dr. Valpede said. An EPA spokesman said while the approvals had now been given, it was still up to the Westgate Tunnel project to decide where the soil would be sent. Yeah, of course. That's the fob off. This is what the state government and bureaucrats will do. They'll wash their hands with it because they say, look, we've gone through our due diligence, which is arguable, and we've got approvals at a range of sites. It's now up to those sites to negotiate with Transurban. So big business gets to decide where toxic soil goes. EPA will continue to monitor the treatment and containment of this type of spoil to ensure that it meets critical public health and environmental standards to keep Victorians safe. A government spokesman said the EPA's approval sets strict requirements to protect the environment and health of the community that these sites would have to meet if they are selected to take the soil from the project. That's the government for you. Spin, spin, spin. Well, we're unspinning that spin. They changed their regulations. You can Google this up. In fact, I might even try to, if I remember to do it, I might even link it in the description of this article. I haven't got it in front of me. They actually made it easier to dump toxic soil in the state of Victoria. Now, what's the consequences of the toxic soil? You've heard me speak about cancer. Right now, I'm going to put a quick video on. I'm not going to play all of it. I will have a link to in the description about it, of a bloke. Let him speak in his own words.
I was born with one nostril, a keyhole pupil, and a serrated eyelid on my right side. The doctors told my mom that I wouldn't make it through the night. I had approximately 30 surgeries by the time I was 7 years old. Beginning from day one, there was an uphill battle, obviously, to fight for myself, for my parents. From day one, I was joining the fight without knowing. My mother, who worked directly with the main chemical compound in Teflon, which is C8 or PFOA, she was pregnant while she directly worked with the chemical. Unbeknownst to her, the chemical affected me while I was in utero. In my teenage years, really began the reconstructive process as far as my facial reconstructive surgery. Still not knowing what the cause was, still not understanding what had happened. There was no chance that I could litigate against DuPont. And as a mother would, she said, well, I hope you get something. You know, you deserve something. And I said, it's never been about that. And it never continues to be about that. It continues for me to be about safety. A wellness of life and health that every human being should have.
That was Bucky Bailey. Now, the chemical he talked about is part of the PFAS family, and highly concentrated levels of it led to those birth defects that he was, well, born with. That's just one of the potential risks that this contaminant brings. Just one of them. And it's just amazing me that the party for the battler, the Labor Party, or they say they're the party for the battler. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I've said that to many. Just politics, just a brand. I can't believe that at the state level, that toxic chemical is going to be putting food at risk. This should be the scandal of a lifetime. I can't believe any government would consider doing this to its people. The job of a government is to keep its population safe. Now, if you want to look up PFAS, and this is where the Victorian government in particular, of Australia, is really, really interesting. Now, this is the EPA's website. This is what PFAS, the description on PFAS is here. Find out about PFAS and the EPA's advice about the presence in the environment. All right, so you roll through this. Let's roll through this a little bit. This is what Victoria's EPA, which is supposed to be watching out for our safety in regards to this stuff. This is the website. PFAS are a group of manufactured chemicals. There are more than 4,000 types of PFAS, including PFOS, PFOA. I'm not going to try and pronounce them. I just can't do it. I'm not bad. I'm not good at it. I'm not bad here in the heart, but I'm not good at pronouncing any of this. PFHXS. Many products contain PFAS, including carpets, clothes, and non-stick cookware. In the past, firefighting foams also contain PFAS. PFAS in the environment. There are low levels of PFAS in soil, sediment, water, and animals across most of Victoria. Some locations, such as firefighting training sites, have higher levels of PFAS in the environment. There is a worldwide concern about PFAS because they are widely used, stay in the environment for a long time, move easily through animals, water, and land. All this is true, by the way, and can build up in animals and people. PFAS and human health. Most of us are exposed to low levels of PFAS. In fact, I think all of us have been exposed to PFAS in some capacity. Just think how much Teflon was used. This is mostly from eating food or drinking water with PFAS in it. This is unlikely to be harmful to our health. Recent studies show people's exposure to PFAS in the general environment is reducing. Scientific studies in animals have shown some links between PFAS exposure and health effects. There is no consistent evidence that PFAS are harmful to human health or cause any specific illnesses, even in cases of highly exposed occupational populations. What did I just play? Google Bucky Bailey. These chemicals don't operate different. They don't operate at all based on differently on Southern Hemisphere or Northern Hemisphere conditions. They operate the same. It is a chemical compound. It's not the Twilight Zone. However, we still don't know everything about how PFAS affects human health. This is why EPA takes a precautionary approach and advises Victorians to take care and reduce their exposure to PFAS. So that's Victoria's PFAS thing. Now, that does have more links, which I'm not going to follow. PFAS and health and that sort of stuff. Actually, I'm not going to. You can see there. I'll have a link to this. All right, so you got. Anyway. The Americans, on the other hand. As I said, there's no difference between this stuff in America or Australia. It operates the same. It is a chemical compound. A man-made chemical. So according to the United States EPA, there is evidence that exposure to PFAS can lead to adverse health outcomes in humans. If humans or animals ingest PFAS, by eating or drinking water or food that contains PFAS, the PFAS are absorbed and can accumulate in the body. PFAS stay in the human body for long periods of time. As a result, as people are exposed to PFAS from different sources over time, the levels of PFAS in their bodies may increase to the point where they suffer from adverse health effects. This is I just read out what the Victorian EPA said. And this is very different. This is saying that it builds up over time and can lead to adverse health effects. Studies indicate that PFOA and PFOS can cause reproductive and developmental liver and kidney and immunological effects in laboratory animals. Both chemicals have caused tumours in animal studies. The most consistent findings from human epidemiological studies are increased cholesterol levels amongst exposed populations, with more limited findings related to infant birth weights, effects on the immune system, cancer for PFOA specifically, and thyroid hormone disruption for PFOS. Oral exposure studies of PFBS in animals have shown effects on thyroid hormone disruption, reproductive organs and tissues, developing fetus, and kidney. Based on dose-response information across different sexes, life stages, and durations of exposure, the thyroid appears to be particularly sensitive to oral PFBS exposure. The data are inadequate to evaluate cancer effects associated with PFBS exposure. And it's not like the Victorian Labor Party hasn't come out with comments similar to this in the past. This is Harvard that I've got pulled up on my screen right now, which is a record of what politicians say in Parliament. Now, this was done. I've read through one of these before in 2018. I think it was September 2018 by Miss Vicky Ward, the member for Eltham, the Victorian Labor Party state member for Eltham. Now, this is June 2018. I rise to speak on the Environment, Natural Resources and Regional Development Committee's report on its inquiry into the Country Fire Authority's Training College at Fiskville. As members might be aware, I have spoken about this report a few times, and especially in relation to my concerns regarding PFAS. You would have seen the stories in The Age. Some excellent investigative journalism regarding shocking history of PFAS, particularly PFOA and PFOS, and the practices of 3M in keeping this product in communities despite its knowing that it was dangerous. This is the political party that is now making it easier to dump this stuff in communities in the western suburbs of Victoria and potentially putting the food supply of Victorians at risk. I do believe this chemical is dangerous, Vicky said in 2018. I'd love to know what she says now. In fact, more than believe, I know. The evidence I heard in committee hearings and in interviews told me that we think this chemical could be dangerous. Well, epidemiological evidence is very strong that this chemical has caused, very strong, that's not what the Victorian EPA was saying, very strong evidence that this chemical has caused serious illnesses such as cancer and autoimmune conditions. Toxicologists believe they can find a safe threshold. I'm of the view that there is no safe threshold for these chemicals. They are bioaccumulative. They stay in your body for decades. It does not break down. It does not disappear. It takes forever to come out of your body. This is Vicky Ward's own words in 2018. They stay in your body forever. It does not break down. It does not disappear. It takes forever to come out of your body. It is transmitted through blood, and it's transmitted through breast milk. We get it in our bodies through the food we eat and the water we drink. For those communities that have been in areas that have been polluted by PFAS, they are stuck with it probably for life. It will take years for it to come out of their bodies. Currently, the federal department's health advice is that there is no consistent evidence that PFAS causes any specific illnesses, including cancer. There's plenty of evidence, though. It may not be consistent, but there is evidence. There is study after study after study that explains why this chemical causes so many problems in people, and especially in babies. The Royal Australasian College of Physicians has called on the federal government for years to ban all firefighting foams with PFAS. I would take it one step further. I would ban it altogether. Good, go for it. Ban it from coming to this community. Ban it from going to Bacchus Marsh. Ban it from putting anyone at risk of finding it in their food. The latest international evidence includes information from Germany, England, and the United States that PFAS contamination has been linked to cancer, thyroid disease, infertility issues, and lower response rates to vaccines from children because it suppresses the immune system. Wait a minute. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We've got a vaccine rollout happening at the moment to try to curb the spread of COVID-19. And you're telling me your government is about to dump, the government itself isn't doing it, but its contractor is. It's got a contract with Transurban to deliver a tunnel. And from that tunnel dig, spoil is coming up, or soil and rocks, contaminated with this stuff. In one of the sites that you have, the second site your government is partially responsible for, because Richard Wynne did approve it, is Bacchus Marsh, which has got a waterway running right past it that goes straight into farmlands, straight into past the Werribee Zoo. The water that goes from that system goes into the Werribee River. This stuff is forever. You're saying it yourself. I can't believe it. This is the first time I've read this. Australia is only one of a handful of countries not to have banned PFAS chemicals, including PFOS and PFOA. I urge the federal government to get their skates on and do something about this chemical instead of dithering. Fairfax has reported on the comments by the University of Sydney's Lisa Biro, who is internationally known for her knowledge of the influence of industry on scientific research, including the tactics used by the tobacco and pharmaceutical companies. She has said regarding the way in which many scientific studies of PFOS and PFOA have been commissioned. It's directly parallel, I would have to say. The strategies that we used in the PFAS case are really all the same as we've seen across other industries. Fairfax reported that experts have told Fairfax Media the strategies were nearly identical to those used historically by the tobacco industry and the asbestos body. We saw that ourselves in our community hearing. I see the former chair of our committee, the member for Thomastown here, who with me looked on in shock. She'd made parallels with the asbestos industry in committee hearings a number of times in regards to the way that they covered up and hid evidence of only releasing the stories that they wanted to have told. This product is so perverse, this nasty, noxious chemical is so perverse that it is found in Antarctica. I am sorry to say that there are no Teflon frying pans or firefighting foam that should be found in Antarctica. But this chemical is. And you, right, okay. You have acknowledged that this has got a very wide-ranging capacity, this chemical. It can move very, very far. And your government has made it easier to see it be dumped within a bull's roar of farms. Politicians. She went on. West Virginia and Ohio had an independent panel of leading epidemiologists, who monitored data from 69,000 exposed people over several years. They found a probable link with high cholesterol, ulcerative colitis, thyroid disease, testicular cancer, kidney cancer, and pregnancy-induced hypertension. In 2016, the UN's Persistent Organic Pollutants Review Committee to the Stockholm Convention, to which Australia is a signatory, found PFOS is likely to lead to significant adverse human health and environmental effects such as that global action is warranted. The Stockholm Convention found, to be quite clear, that PFOS is likely to lead to significant adverse human health effects. It wasn't a special effect, by the way. That was a motorbike going past the studio. Still haven't soundproofed the shed. It's a shed. Can't make this up. Can't make this up. You've got a state government who purports to be full of battler and will rush out press release after press release over all the good stuff they're doing. It's their right to do that. Free speech. This is not one of their good deeds, though. This is definitely not one of their good deeds. They created a contract with Transurban. Transurban came to an absolute sticking point when they discovered the extent of the toxic soil that was in there. The contractors that they've employed don't want a bar of it. They want to be out. The communities have been up in arms over this. They changed the planning scheme on the advice of the EPA, or the EPA gave those original ticks. They were rescinded. The state government, before they rescinded them, ticked off the planning scheme adjustments, but never ever reversed that. Yeah, foregone. Yeah, further proof or evidence pointing towards a foregone conclusion. But anyway, let's do a top four. Top four reasons the toxic soil decision sucks. Number 4. Going 4 down to 1. We're carrying the risk for some big business to profit from. Those risks that we're carrying, that we've been told to carry, or asked to carry, are cancer, birth defects, and much, much more. Number 3. Research in animal studies has shown that animals exposed to PFOA and PFOS develop tumours. Again, this is absolutely horrible. PFOAs were listed as persistent organic pollutants under the Stockholm Convention due to their persistent, bioaccumulative, and toxic nature. In other words, they don't break down in the human body, they build up, and as they build up, greater risk of illness. Number one reason. EPA Victoria has approved the dumping of this stuff a few hundred metres away from homes, schools, and farms, and right next to a waterway. I wish I wasn't talking about this. Wish I was talking about something cool, such as Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or something a bit different. Maybe Joe Biden and his inability to give a speech that lasts more than 7 minutes without stumbling all the way through it. There's things around the world that are much more that I'd like to cover much more. I do not particularly want to cover a subject that is this vile, but I've got to. I don't want my kids getting cancer. I don't want them having testicular cancer. I've got 2 boys. I love my boys. I don't want to get testicular cancer for that matter, and I don't want to get cancer myself. I just don't know what to bloody say. And a mate just recently passed away from cancer. I'm not going to go down. I'm going to... This is an update. So that the community knows that this stuff has been ticked off. It's putting your food supply at risk. This is not something you should take lying down. That's it for me tonight. Please like, share, comment away. This is absolutely critical. Please share this one around. It is toxic, vile stuff, and we need the world to know. Thank you, and until next time.